Good morning. Today I am going to discuss about some of the basic concepts in environment ecosystem. You know that how to define an environment. So environment is nothing but surrounding us is termed as environment. It includes living and non-living component around us. So we are one of the important component of our environment. So without environment, without our mother earth, we cannot survive. So the motive of including this environmental science and engineering in BE curriculum is to educate the students, to educate the engineers, and how to give the proper solution for various environmental problems. So that is the main objective of this environmental science and engineering. So now we come to the scope of the environment. The environment consists of 4 segments, namely atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere. So you know that atmosphere is nothing but it's a blanket of gases. It consists of nitrogen, that is around a 72% of nitrogen, around 16% of oxygen, less than 3% of carbon dioxide. The remaining is helium, neon, hydrogen, argon, krypton. This type of noble gases are present in the atmosphere. So the major portion of atmosphere is filled with nitrogen gas. That is the reason our global temperature is not varying very much. So due to inert nature of this nitrogen, our global temperature can be maintained. So the atmosphere is one of the important constituent in our earth. Next to the atmosphere, hydrosphere. Hydrosphere is nothing but all the water bodies, all the water component in the earth is termed as hydrosphere. It includes marine water, sea water, river, lake, and even an underground water table. And next, lithosphere. The lithosphere is nothing but it deals with the rock and soil of the earth. So how the rock and soil are interrelated with the living component and non-living component in the environment. And next one is biosphere. The biosphere is the realm of living organism and their interaction with the environment. So actual part where the living and non-living component are interacted themselves in an environment. That region we call it as biosphere. Okay, so these are the 4 important spheres in the earth. So this can react with, this can directly and indirectly related to the living component of the environment. Okay, so you must know about the each and every components of this. Okay, then only you can how this component can interact with living things and how various interactions among themselves can be occurred. Okay, so this is the main scope of this environmental component. So if you know clear knowledge about this component, we can easily understand how they can interact themselves. So these studies can bring different things. So today we are facing so many problems. Our natural resources are degraded. Our natural resources are overutilized. So day by day the human population is increases and the requirements, the available natural resources are limited. So population is increases but the resource is limited. So how to conserve these natural resources? What are the sustainable way to conserve the natural resources? So that things is very important. So in this scope and studies, we can learn how to conserve the natural resources. And if you go to the ecological aspects, our many ecological things can be imbalanced. So our habitat destruction can be occurred. This is mainly due to a natural or a man-made interference, especially the anthropogenic interference. Okay, so through this environmental studies, we can clearly understand what are the various ecological aspects that affect our environment and our ecology. That things are discussed here. And next alarming issue is the pollution. Okay, so the environmental component, what are the environmental component? Last slide we can see atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere. All this environmental component are polluted due to various activities, especially the anthropogenic activities. So due to this pollution, how our natural resources can be affected, that things are very important. Okay, and how to control that pollutions. So the pollution is unavoidable, because if our country wants to develop, industrialization, urbanization, globalization is need. So it is unavoidable one. But if you go for sustainable way, if you go for a technically sound way, we can control the pollution coming out from the industries. So that is very important. So here the engineers can play a vital role to control the environmental pollution. If you cannot control, it leads to so many social issues, okay, like a greenhouse effect or global warming, ozone depletion, different types of smog formation. These all are arises. This type of social issues are connected to the environmental pollution. So it is very necessary to discuss about the social issues, to address about the social issues. Okay, so in a root cause itself, we can eradicate this issues, means it cannot lead to major social issues. And then what is the impact of human population on environment? So the population increase is the major reason for depletion of natural resources. So in 1945 and 47, at that time our Indian population is around 45 crores, but now the population reaches nearing the 130 crores. So how much time, the 3 times the population can be doubled. So this doubling population require more energy or require more natural resources to sustain. So over utilization of energy and resources can occur. This leads to various problems. So that impact our environment. And not only the natural resources depletion, the overpopulation can lead to unemployment issues and unemployment problems, and a conflict arises between the natural things and the human beings. There are so many conflicts arises. So these things are addressed here. Okay, and then what are the ways to solve this type of problem? So we need a proper environmental audit, okay, and impact analysis, EIA, environment impact analysis, and then proper environmental auditing is needed in order to curb these issues. So these things are addressing. Okay, so these things are discussed in this presentation. Okay, so this is the main scope of the environmental studies. Okay, even though you are a engineers, you are the technocrats, so you are the major role to play to preserve our mother earth. So this is about the component of our ecosystems. So you know that what is ecosystem? Ecosystem is nothing but the interrelationship between a living and non-living component in the environment and form a stable, sustained system. That is called as an ecosystem, or interaction of living and non-living component in the ecosystem to form a stable system. That is called an ecosystem. So the ecosystem is broadly classified abiotic or a biological environment, and abiotic or a physical environment, biotic or biological environment. So if you come to the abiotic factors, there are two important factors, climatic factors and adipic factors. If you come to the climatic factors, rain, light, wind, temperature, these all are play a vital role. If you come to the adipic factors, the soil, pH, minerals and topography, these all are come under the abiotic component, that is non-living component of the environment. So these things entirely depends upon atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. Okay, these three components come under the abiotic components. So these things play a vital role. If you come to the biotic component, the biological components is nothing but producers, consumers and decomposers. Okay, so you know that producers, what is producers? Okay, producers are nothing but autotrophs. It's capable of producing foods for themselves and also for a successive consumers. So in a biotic component, producer is the only species capable of producing food due to presence of green pigment chlorophyll. Okay, so it absorbs sunlight. In the presence of green pigment chlorophyll, it produces food in the form of carbohydrate. So the energy can stored in the chemical form. So the chemical energy stored in the food. Okay, so it absorbs sunlight and it can store the energy in a carbohydrate in a chemical form that can be consumed by the consumers, herbivorous and then carnivorous and then omnivorous. So the energy can be go from the producers to consumer. Finally, both the producers and consumers are decay and it can be decomposed by the septotrophs or decomposers. Okay, so these things are biotic component. So if you come to the consumers, there are different types of consumers: primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer and quaternary consumer. So the primary consumers are nothing but it only depends producer for a food. That type of consumers, normally herbivores, come under the primary consumers, and secondary consumers, it depends food for primary consumers. It is a secondary consumer, it eat the primary consumer, herbivores as a food. That type of consumer we call it as secondary consumer. And next one is tertiary consumer. Tertiary consumer is nothing but it consumes the secondary consumers. Okay, quaternary consumer is the top level consumer of an ecosystem or omnivorous. Okay, so it consumes both the plants and animals. So this is about the excuse me, this is about the components of an ecosystem. So now, how to create the awareness? Environmental awareness is very important. Okay, so it's to understand the fragility of our environment and importance of the environment and how to protect our environment. Because without proper education, proper knowledge about the environment, we cannot know how to preserve our environment. Okay, so there are many ways to create the awareness to the public, those who need the knowledge about the environmental things. Okay, so the promoting environmental awareness is an easy way to become an environmental steward and participate in creating a bright future for our children. Okay, so you are the engineers, so you are the educated one, you can learn some knowledge about our environment. That knowledge can be shared to the society, so we can educate to our people properly. So you must explain the values of value of environmental education and value of our environmental component. So how the presently our environmental component is there. So these things are going to discussed here. Okay, and then we come to the resource available. What are the various natural resources available in our environment? Okay, so this environmental awareness is very important. So we can get the informations and inspirational seminars and online courses through the books and videos, and then role plays and brochures, and then various tools we can create the awareness to the people about the environmental things. Okay, so thank you for your patient listening.